Okay. I call the regular governing board meeting of September 26th to order. If you please let the record show that there are 3 board members present, Ms. Ordway, Mr. Carver, and myself. Ms. Paperman and Ms. Simichek will not be available. If I could get you to stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Okay. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move that the governing board adopt the agenda with the exception of moving old business item 4B to the next scheduled board meeting, 10th, 2023.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Public participation in the governing board meeting. Mr. Carver.
Should start with the admonishment. Okay.
Yes.
The board invites public comment on the district's business in general and on any agenda item in specific. All speakers must observe the rules of decorum. Speakers must fill out a card listing name, address, and topic and hand it to the board secretary prior to the president calling the meeting to order. Speakers must make their comments in no more than 3 minutes. If necessary to accommodate all speakers within the 30-minute overall limit, the board president may shorten each speaker's time. Constructive criticism is in order. Rudeness, vulgarity, disruptive conduct, or remarks disrespecting personal dignity are not in order and will not be allowed. Under the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the governing board cannot discuss or act on any items not listed on the agenda. Board members may respond to criticism made by a speaker, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. I'll call your names in order that will have you speak. When you approach the mic, please state your name for the record. Joseph Parker, Jerry Knorr, Donna Gutkowski, Joshua Hawkins, and Tiffany Hawkins. In that order, please.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Parker, and I've been to a couple school board meetings and have seen multiple issues that I would like to point out. The first issue is the seating arrangement where we're on the sides and not facing the board. I have done some research and I do have pictures of other school board meetings where the room is totally set up where we're facing you. The next item I would like to bring up is the microphone where for the speakers, which is positioned right here in the back of the room. And I noticed earlier during the student event that the podium was up front, and that was moved right after the event was over. I think it's very disrespectful to the taxpayers and students' parents and the staff to do this. I recommend that we change the seating. COVID is over. And I also heard from multiple people that the superintendent has set up the seating arrangement. Thank you.
Good evening, folks in the audience, taxpayers, public.
State your name, please.
Chairman and board members and staff. My name is Jerry Knorr. I just want to bring up an issue that I brought to the board by email that Like other emails, I have not gotten any kind of response. And so I want to reread my email to you guys because I'm hoping for information, and that's what I'm seeking. It says, my email to you, all 5 board members. Dear board members, I'm trying to learn more about the current DVUSD bond and override. I have the following questions. 1, did the board vote to exempt the Taiwan plant from paying any school board property taxes? How much money was exempted? Did the action cause a need to raise our property taxes this year? 2, did the board vote to raise our property taxes this year? 3, how much is the current bond and override, including the elections, costing the DVUSD and taxpayers? Number 4, how much personnel and administrative time and cost have been spent for this current DVUSD bond and override? Number 5, why is the Taiwan plant not building their own schools as part of their development and infrastructure cost? Number 6, why should the longtime taxpayers of the DVUSD pay for these tax exemptions and school constructions costs? Number 7, why did the DVUSD have an almost $1,000 rally if we are in so much need of this bond and override money? When we have so many important needs around the school district. I ask these questions, I'm kind of trying to look the answers because there's a vote pending and the public needs to know. And I believe that transparency is important when taxpayer money is involved. I don't see a lot of transparency at Deer Valley School District. Matter of fact, I don't see any transparency. The top grade for our top subject in our school district is 56%. Pretty sad. But I think the transparency grade for our same school district is even lower. And I hope that changes soon, or we're going to have to make some changes soon. Thank you and have a good night.
Hi, President is not here, board members, Dr. Finch. My name is Donna Gutowski, and I wanted to say thank you first to Ann Ordway for taking the time to meet with me and discuss a lot of questions that I had and I could share with Paul Carver and Kim Fisher via text, telephone calls, and meetings. Again, answered a lot of my questions, our questions. On the other hand, as Jerry and Joe have already addressed, there are several questions that have not been answered, and we'd like to get those and continue the communication that seems to be occurring to some of us. So I thank you again for that and hope that we can continue and do have communications via personal meetings, texts, emails, phone calls, whatever it takes. Thank you.
Joshua Hawkins. Good evening, board. We're back to update the public on our progress. We have completed our first meetings with the Deputy Superintendent, ALS Director, and ALS Manager. Although the district has explained how it sees and applies the laws and policies, we are no further ahead than before. We are still stuck at the bottom, but a more clear picture of why. Our meeting with ALS Director was a dictated meeting. They talked and we listened. No questions asked. Verbal control of the principal, who is told when to speak and what to say. Told the principal to refuse and answer a directed question within her authority. The ALS Director stated that in our JICK policy under the bullying definitions, there are 4 bullet points listed. This in general outlines bullying. What about harassment? Is that bullying? It could be, if it fits. Intimidation? Could be, if it fits. So any of these could be. Director, Quote, according to several others in my department, the practice is to label as bullying. It must meet 3 of these 4 bullet points listed, end quote. Policy doesn't state this unwritten rule anywhere, and neither does the ARS 15-341 or 13-2921. After 8 weeks of waiting, and all we did was review a timeline of what brought us here and reviewed policy. We are already aware of all that. Then we were told all of our questions would have to be the next meeting. No progress. Side note, the deputy superintendent confirmed both of our online complaints were in fact received, but somehow ended in the junk folder. As stated, he politely disagrees and apology is needed on his behalf. I'm sorry, and you were accurate. Our next meeting involved the deputy superintendent and ALS manager. From this meeting, we were able to explain all the events that have happened to our kids, concerns, emails, meetings, and reports we have done. We felt the district has a better understanding of our issues. Nay, they doubled down on their distorted policies. They explained punctuation is how they get to the understanding of the bully rules. In this meeting, they confirmed that our GACK policy is similar to the Arizona Department of Education. However, ours has "or" in one spot. We clarified that doesn't make sense. If I ask for a hamburger or a hot dog, I don't get both. It's one or the other. So in the district's eyes, 3 horrible things have to happen to fit their practice before they document and investigate. Thanks to this grammatical sequence, this district has a haphazard view to minimize documentation, investigations, and consequences. When asked why the events were not at least documented as something else in policy and actions taken, they explained, well, it could be. Could be isn't good enough anymore. When will, it could, it might, it maybe stop being the answer. Never should it be, we might document, we could do something, we should track things better. This is a recipe for disaster. Enforce what is written, otherwise how do you know if it's working? Policy CHD states it's a superintendent's duty to inform the board of the need to develop an official policy. This should have happened. Start writing policies to match the law, make them understandable and less confusing for yourselves and the public. We will never be behind you if you continue to hide, deceive, and lie to our faces. That time is now.
Good evening, Board. Tiffany Hawkins. As you just heard from my husband, this is confusing, so much that only a few people understand it. That is why everyone has spoken to has to ask someone else to confirm. If this administration can clearly understand this, why hasn't it been rewritten? When you send our kids home with work, we help them double check with errors so they can see what they did wrong and fix it. Who's checking your errors? Unfortunately, that's where the parents come in, and we are the ones who have to endure as our children suffer the district's trials and errors. Has anyone asked how my kids are doing with all this? As mentioned, these unwritten rules are what has allowed things to happen. Somewhere, someone read these policies and decided on their own what they meant, and being used as they saw fit. Policy CHD clearly outlines what it is to be done if the message isn't clear. You do what is needed and then notify the rule makers that a rule needs to be made. This is the practice is what is repeated. Practice is what you do to train and refine skills, a repeated effort of consistency with outcomes of desired. Then what does that say about this outcome? Is this what was practiced for, to allow students to behave in a way that belittles, demeans, and scars my children emotionally? To make kids afraid to come to school, to not trust the adults in their lives that they will protect them from harm, to teach the example that nothing serious is done if you seriously offend. If these are your outcomes, then this is what you practice. The outcome of your practice has resulted in a few fistfights at an elementary school a few weeks ago, reported to me by a teacher. Your outcome of 3 fistfights at DVHS 2 weeks ago. Your outcome of DVHS staff who hasn't been trained on the procedures of lockdown, all while a special needs student is somehow on a cafeteria roof and ready to jump. Your outcome of teachers let go due to inappropriate behavior towards students. What then does this say about what you practice? It doesn't seem your practice is producing the outcome we all want for this district, a safe and successful environment, one where good behavior is rewarded and bad behavior is punished, one where we watch for those that continue to break the rules. We look out for each other and say something when it's necessary. These kids are out of our reach for help for most of the day, and we rely on the district to do the right thing and care for these kids, like I would if I was there. I have chest pains when I drop my girls off at Skook. I shake while working for the phone calls, all while the authority and responsibility, what have you done to make this a safe place? We together can make this better, make some rules, make everyone on board. Everyone understands, everyone agrees on right and wrong, and everyone takes responsibility for themselves. Let's make this a better place. Please add this onto an agenda for a study session and remedy this. Thank you.
I'd like to request that we get some of the answers that Jerry had submitted so that we can make sure that we're giving the correct answer when we respond. So if you could provide any of those answers to us, I'd appreciate it. Okay. We're going to move on to old business. Approve the grading configuration for West Wing.
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the grade configuration of West Wing, Inspiration Mountain, and Sonoran Foothill to PK through 8.
Second. Are there any questions, any changes or discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye. And I'll vote aye as well. Okay, we move that on to the next meeting. Can we get a motion for the consent agenda?
I move that the governing board approve consent agenda items 5A through 5K.
Second. Call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Action item 6A.
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to pre-approve the
Second. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none. I just have to look at one thing real quick. I apologize. My computer is not pulling up the item. Could you please, for just a moment? It pulled up the awards instead of what I wanted to look at. Okay, that's fine. Yes, thank you. I'll vote aye as well. Okay, Superintendent, your report.
We had the Interfaith here virtually, September 13th. We do this 2 times a year. All the pastors and priests and clergy in the neighborhood that join us via Zoom. We talk about what our mission is and what we're doing, what we're trying to do, and how to they can help plug into our school system to help us. And it's always a fruitful time. We thank them. And if there's anyone watching that's involved in a local parish, local church, and wants to get involved, just contact me via email, and we'll get you on the list and get you connected to our system. We have at O'Connor, I think we have more than just one at O'Connor, but we have some national merit semifinalists are starting to come in. I think we have 4 or 5, 2 at O'Connor, and we have a couple at Ridge as well, 4 at Ridge. So, yeah, we've picked up 6 on this lap, so, and which is obviously a tough one to win. So we'll keep an eyeball on that. That's coming. Canyon Springs has a STEM event coming up this Friday, September 29, if you want to check that out. That's always a big community event up north. And so if you want to check that out, let them know that you're coming, and they'll probably put you to work if you want to help out. Right now I'm doing visiting classrooms throughout the district, handing out certificates for the highest learning growth, and that's been fun in ELA and math. We have about 80 teachers that I'm trying to get to. And so we're looking forward to finishing that up on the next couple weeks. Just to FYI, we did pick up 3 more A+ School of Excellence Awards visits that are coming up in probably right at the turn of the corner in January. If you remember, one of the statistics about Deer Valley, over 50% of our schools are A+ School of Excellence, which is a very difficult award to get. And so we're really proud of that one. Those are outside agencies that come and evaluate the system at each school. So pretty excited about that. We have 3 more that are in the queue for a possible award. And as you know, fine arts and athletics are full bore right now this time of year. mid-season for a lot of the athletics, and obviously the fine arts. Much of the fine arts goes in tandem with that as well. Marching band and theater and all that runs on pretty much similar schedule. And last but not least, working on the podcast. Did some of that today. My next podcast is going to be about the different family pairs that we have in our machine. So interviewed Tessa Williams and Judy Williams today. They were on ABC 15 as well, but they actually are mom and daughter, 2 doors down from each other at Anthem Elementary. Very unique. So if you want to learn more about the different topics that I cover in my podcast, just go to the website on the superintendent's page. Thank you.
Don't fight for the spot. Just kidding. Who wants to go first?
Andy, you want it or you want me to?
Oh, yeah, because the meeting's going so quick, I better get going. I just wanted to say thank you to Melissa for your leadership. There were so many good things about our transition students. Being able to visit and work in a variety of places. Of course, close to my heart is the farm sanctuaries. But the experience that these kids are getting, whether they want to go into being a tech, maybe they want to be a vet, I don't know. But it's just that their voices were heard about where they wanted to go as opposed to we'll go to Target and that's where you're going to go. And then you jump over to Boulder Creek. I think they're at Legends now, doing some kind of internship, whichever one it is. And what happens when they make connections in the community, they remember them. And it just builds. And I believe Deer Valley is with the Aquatic Center. I don't know. It's just an amazing thing for me because all of our kids have the opportunity to go somewhere. I would also like to have put on the agenda discussing transportation from our 5 high schools. Don't look at me like that, Mr. Miglorino. To, you know what I'm going to say next, West Mac on Williams. I just would hope that we could get as many kids over there as possible. And I think if there's opportunity, they're not worth a lot, or they're worth a lot more, better way to put it, when there's access to them, because not every kid can get transportation. Football games were quite colorful this weekend, and the arts are coming. We've got our Veterans Day coming, and I wanted to say the Constitution Day celebrations were awesome. And I will then pass the torch to you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Ordway. So last Friday, I was able to attend some PLC meetings at Barry Goldwater High School. We hear a lot of that at the board meetings, PLC this, PLC that, and I'm sure a lot of us don't have any idea what that is, what it constitutes, or what it looks like. So suffice it to say, what it is they're work groups where these educators meet that are teaching same subjects at the same grade level, to where they can learn from each other and help teach each other best practices. It's kind of like a train the trainer type of a meeting. They learn about some of the tools that are available to them to help them track the successes and challenges of each of their students throughout that, sorry, in this case it was ELA. So throughout English in that grade level, what students are facing what challenges and how can we best address that? What works for this child? So it was good to see, and each one of the PLCs had a different area that they really excelled at, and there's a lot of successes going on. I'm looking forward to the next time I get to go out with Ms. DeMarteau and Ms. Moore to go experience some of the other schools to see what they're doing. I don't believe that I can sit up here on the dais and try to have any kind of intelligent opinion if I don't get out there and experience some of these things that we talk about so much here in the boardroom. like Dr. Finch with his goal of 500 classrooms, I have a goal for myself of getting into each school at least once to visit with the principal and take a tour through the campus, hear about the challenges that they may be facing and the successes that they're enjoying. It's usually the two questions that I have for each principal as I hit the campus is tell me something good and tell me something that you think could be better. And so in some cases, it's something that the board or the district might be able to help out with to do something better. And in some cases, it's just trying to work through. But I've been able to make it to a small handful of classrooms so far. What I would say is if you are an educator in a school or a principal and you would like for me to come to your school sooner versus later, send me an email. Otherwise, I'm starting at one end of the district and working my way the other side. And I'll be back out in the district on October 11th to get back with that. I wanted to thank the administration for taking my email under consideration that I sent out regarding regulation JIC A-RB regarding student dress. This topic came to me from members of the community. There's been a lot of buzz going on about COVID and where it sits in the country. And there was a lot of legislation in 2022 regarding medical freedoms in the state. And so they were kind enough to listen to my concerns and look at some of the citations of some of the ARS that have been presented and passed. So that regulation has been updated for anybody that would care to look at it. Basically what's happened is, I'll just read it real quick since I've got some time left here. Okay, thank you. Per ARS 36681, the wearing of a face covering may not be mandated by the district. Any changes to this regulation may only occur if mandated by action of a governmental entity or agency with jurisdiction over the district or its operations. All persons, including but not limited to staff, students, vendors, visitors, and volunteers, may choose to wear a face covering while on any district property, in any district facility, at any district event, whether indoors or outdoors. If face coverings are worn, staff, students, visitors, vendors, and volunteers should wear them in a manner consistent with public health recommendations. This, I believe, was a good example of the board working well with the administration to get things done for the benefit of the community. So I would just tell the community, if you see things out there, everybody knows where to find these things, these policies and regulations. If you don't, feel free to send me an email. I can point you in the right direction. If you have questions, reach out to the board. The board gets your emails. We read them. If you're not receiving an answer, there's a reason. Sometimes it's because we don't know. And like Mrs. Fisher stated earlier to the administration, please get us the correct information so we're not misleading. Because please understand, when we're not sitting on this dais, if we're having a conversation with you, it's not as a board member. We don't have that authority. It's just as a concerned member of the community that might have more knowledge than you. So we want to make sure that we give you the right information. And I appreciate everybody that's been reaching out, looking to be better educated about the topics that we deal with on a regular basis here at the district. Thank you for your support. That's all I've got.
Just one point of clarification. Ms. Ordway, do you want your request on a study session or a meeting? Do you have a specific for the transportation? And do you want it to include the discussion of the grant?
I would like it at a study session. I think it's to talk about at a meeting, because it's going to have to be thinking out of the box, I think, to get those little yellow buses or the microbirds over there.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to apologize to individuals I haven't responded to. I've been out of town on a bereavement situation, and then returned home to a child who had a broken leg and needed surgery. So I've just been out of touch. I apologize if I haven't answered your emails. I've tried to keep up on some of them as much as I can. I am surprised I came back to a lot of emails. And I'm seeing a lot of repeated concerns, not necessarily from just one family, but from multiple, specifically regarding not just bullying and things of that nature, but I'm seeing a lot of the problem being our processes. We have the Student Rights and Responsibilities Handbook, and as I've kind of directed parents, that's where the path is. That's where the regulations and the path in which you need to go. But the problem is the path is never followed, and they never seem to get anywhere beyond stage 1 and then bounce up to 2 and then back to 1 and then to 2 and 3 and then back to 1, and they never comes to fruition. So I am very concerned. Just in my emails, just from the week I was gone, were about the bullying, about suspensions and long-term suspensions, and not following of regulations and laws and within our own policies. And I did also get concerns regarding the same regulation that Mr. Carver had spoke about. The greater concern is that regulations are not policy, and they never go before the board for approval. They're just provided. Administration decides what they're going to put into a regulation, and that regulation is never approved by the board. It is not necessarily even follow the law. And the concern I have is I appreciate the efforts to at least change the wording as requested. However, as we saw, a governmental agency who regulates. Governmental agencies don't write the laws. They don't always necessarily follow the laws. So if we're just going to follow what they tell us to, and it never has an oversight, then you're still in the same situation where we could just say, well, they told us we have to, so now we have to mask, or now we have to whatever. So I am concerned. I do think in that discussion with community members about regulations specifically, I do want to put on a study session exactly what our processes for regulations are. It's concerning that our policies are written by ASBA and they're just given to the board and we're supposed to accept them how they are. At times we change them because it just doesn't fit in our world. But there's never oversight on regulations. Sometimes those come from ASBA as well. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's just administration just writes up a regulation, and they're not always necessarily consistent with our policy. So I do want to add that to a study session as well. In the past, we have had a series of classes or presentations about the community, about what the board does, about how things work. I think I've requested it pretty much every year that I've been on the board this term. And I think we need to do it again. Even if it's not putting it on the staff, if the board does our own part or whatever, it's already written, we've done it before. But I'm getting a lot of questions about things within our budget, where our budget lives, what our responsibilities are, what the board's supposed to be doing, what the superintendent's supposed to be doing, what administration's supposed to be doing. And I have never liked the answer, well, they have all the knowledge and we don't, because that's not necessarily true. Many of us have advanced degrees. Many of us have worked in the field. We're not up here to not think. But our community doesn't necessarily understand what we can and can't do, what we can and can't say, when and how. And so I do want that class to occur again. For those of you who have sent me emails and I have not responded, I will respond within the week. So if I can get a response from the district on any questions that I may not know, otherwise I'm going to go with my historical knowledge on how bonds and overrides run and how bonds are defeased in the whole works. So that's it for me. Our meetings are posted, future meetings are posted, and I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second. Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I think we have beat our time. Thank y'all. See you in 2 weeks.